comfortable are you with being uncomfortable? I class myself as a professional disruptor. And what I mean by that is I will speak my thoughts in almost all situations. I will do it with love and I will do it with integrity and I'll do it with honesty. But it's so much a part of who I am that not doing that feels unethical to me, to who I am as a human being. I believe the power of disruptive thinking can change the world. Because I believe that so powerfully, this is never going to change in my life. And I understand that a lot of people don't feel the same way. A lot of people are very uncomfortable with talking about how they feel or what their thoughts are. I am that person in a group that will look at a situation with side eye openly. I am that person who will turn around and walk away when a situation or a social situation is not serving me. In fact, this happened to me last night. I was with a friend. I was being a supportive friend. This person was going through something. They needed to get out. I went out into the social situation. It was fine. Things were good. We were all having a nice time. And then there were some super drunk people. I'm not a fan of super drunk people at the best of times. These guys were unreal. They were super Luddite level of drunk. They were kind of unintelligible, but also had an air of potential volatility to them. Now, that is something that I categorically will not be around. They got involved in our conversation, and my friend, who is a much more charming person than I am, engaged in the conversation. And I took a minute to assess. And I listened to what they were saying and I looked at the way they were acting. I looked at their body language. I looked at my friend. I looked at the way he was dealing with the situation. There was someone else with us and I looked at how she was dealing with the situation. And everyone was being very polite. And for me, hell no. And I took a minute to think about it. And I thought, this is not a situation that I want to be in. It's not a situation I'm comfortable in. There is nothing about this situation that is nourishing to me or is going to add value to my life. And I turned my back on these very drunk people. I gave my friend a hug. I said, I'm not here for this. I love you. Goodbye. And I left. And that was it. Me done. Out of the situation. As it turned out, the situation did get pretty nasty after I left. And my instinct was correct. So I am glad that I made that decision. I have other situations all of the time where there are friends of friends or there are colleagues who act in a way that I feel is disingenuous or unethical or lacking in integrity. And I feel really comfortable in calling it out. And I've realized through my life that there are different ways of dealing with situations. There are different types of people. And I am absolutely here to disrupt. I am here to be the person that flicks the domino and starts the whole house of cards falling down because something inside of me speaks to the power of tapping into my core values of honesty and integrity. People think that I am fearless in these situations, and that's nonsense. People who speak their mind or speak out in a situation where there is a disparity of power, which is something I find myself doing fairly often, they're not fearless. We're not fearless in this situation. We feel the fear and we do it anyway. We understand that the situation is uncomfortable, but our motivation for speaking our truth has more energy to it than the feeling of being uncomfortable. And we lean into that discomfort because that's what feels right. Now, I'm not saying that my way is the only way. I'm not saying that my way is even the right way, but it is definitely a very key part of who I am. And I will never tone that down. Now, through the years, as I've grown into adulthood and I have developed and I've been on my self growth journey, I have definitely learned different ways to deal with situations. For example, last night when I left the pub, that was a very passive way to deal with the situation. I removed myself from a situation I didn't want to be in. I had a boundary, that boundary was crossed. I left. Now, 10 years ago, I may have confronted these people. And now I'm more grown in the situation and I can understand and assess that if I was to have got into that conversation with them, that wouldn't have gone anywhere good. That wouldn't have gone where I wanted it to go. Nobody would have had a better night because of it. They wouldn't have changed their attitude because of it. They were very drunk. They wouldn't have understood what I was saying anyway, and it would have come across as confrontational. Now, there are situations where I still do speak very directly to what is happening, that I am certain for other people who are more mild mannered in the situation, that seems like it is confrontational. Now, I try to avoid confrontation. I don't like confrontation. At the same time, I won't avoid it. If there is a situation where I feel like honest, direct communication is going to make positive change, I will speak my truth. I feel that this has come from several places in my life. It's part of who I am intrinsically. Now, the reason I think that is because I have a 12-year-old son who has been raised very differently to how I was raised, and he is so similar in his way of thinking. He is such an anarchist, he's such an activist, and I always had that energy when I was growing up too. And I see that in him, despite the fact that he's been parented very differently to how I was. He's had a different upbringing to me. He lives in a completely different time than the time when I grew up and I was 10, 11, 12 years old. And he is just as free thinking and forthright as I am. So I do believe that this is an intrinsic part of my personality. There are also environmental factors. Growing up, I didn't have the easiest time. It's no secret that I struggled with my relationship with my mum. She struggled very much with her anger, with her volatility. And I spent a lot of my childhood feeling very insecure, very unloved, feeling very much like I was not in a protective space. That experience of not feeling protected by my mum as I was growing up definitely built into me this innate desire to fight for the weak, because I felt as a child that I was weak and no one was fighting for me, and I couldn't fight for myself in that time. And as I grew, and I left home when I was 16 years old, as I grew into adulthood and I realized that I can fight for other people, I can fight for what's right. There's definitely a part of me that is fighting for my own inner child, but I fully embrace it. I feel like this comes from a place of love. This comes from a place of wanting things to be better. I want people to do better. I want the world to be better. I want to be better. I enjoy putting myself in uncomfortable positions if it means that I am going to grow as a result. If I feel like I'm going to learn in this environment or in this situation, then I'm going to put myself into it. I'm going to have the uncomfortable conversations because ultimately I want to be a better person, and I want the people around me to be better people, and I want the world to be a better place. If anything, I feel like I am more vocal about injustice if there is another person or set of people who are being impacted and don't feel like they can speak up. This triggers something really deep inside me that is very instinctive. It's very primal almost. And I know that being a disruptor is not something that everybody even wants, but I would definitely encourage you to lean into situations that feel uncomfortable if it gives you a sense of peace, if it gives you a sense of value, if it gives you a sense of your place in the world. Equally, if that's not something that you want in your life, that's not an energy that you want in your life, get yourself a friend who thinks the way that I do, because we will fight for you. We will say the things that you don't want to say. We will categorically voice our opinion in a situation where you feel like you have something to say, but you would never say it in a million years. We should not all be the same. We are not all the same. And we shouldn't be encouraging other people to mold themselves to the way that we see the world or the way that we move in the world. We should be working with each other to complement each other. Actually, at the core of it, that's where I'm going with it. At my heart, I'm thinking by speaking out on this, I am making the world a better place. Now, you might disagree with me, and you might feel like being around somebody who is willing to speak up about things is your worst nightmare. And that's okay. That's valid. That's okay too. But you know what? In a world where there is so much injustice, in a world where we have social media and instant decisions happening, and we have thoughts being planted on our head 20,000 times a day without even thinking about it, the visuals that are coming into our head, the visuals from social media, the opinions of other people that are so accessible to us now with the internet. Actually, in that world, I feel like it is a powerful thing to be able to move through your own experience of life and pick out the things that actually need some attention and speak about them. I can't be the only person that feels this way. I'm really hoping that people are going to watch this and they're going to relate and they're going to say, I feel that way too. And this is the situation that I find myself in all the time. But if you watch this and this is your worst nightmare, I'm really interested to hear from you as well. How does this make you feel? How does the idea of putting yourself in an uncomfortable position make you feel? Have you thought about it? Is it a conscious decision that you make to not say anything when you're in a situation you're unhappy with? If you know someone who is constantly calling people out or constantly speaking on subjects that make you feel a little cringe, share this video with them because I would love to hear their point of view. As always, guys, have the best day.